everybody. Today we have with us Spencer Feldman, who is behind RemedyLink. We've had him here and a couple other calls with some of our detox talks. And today we're going to be talking about our new stages of detox that we have. And Spencer is going to kind of dive in a little bit into the different stages of how to take on detoxes and what to take first, what to take after, and any issues that you may have, and any concerns should get all answered in this call. So I guess, Spencer, if you want to just talk really quick through the four different stages of a detox.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Vlad. So the stage one that you and I have been working on, there's three phases to it, and we discussed it last time in depth, but we can go over it again a little bit just to remind people, because it's a lot of new information to memorize. The first detoxifying is really about making something water soluble. If a toxin is water soluble, then you urinate it out and you're done. If a toxin is fat soluble, then it stays around, or if it's insoluble, like a crystal, it hangs around. So let's say you've got a greasy dish. If you just dip it in water, the grease stays there. If you want to clean the dish off, you've got to put soap or detergent in, and that reacts with the fat and the grease on the dish, makes it soluble, and now you can rinse your dishes clean. So at the end of the day, detox is really about finding soaps that will make the fat-soluble toxins water-soluble, or something that will dissolve the crystallized toxins. And the three phases of the stage one detox. First phase is phase one is the activation of the cytochrome P450 enzymes, and what they do is they attach or put a charge on the toxin, and they do this either by oxidizing it, just taking away an electron, or reducing it, adding an electron, or pulling something off that unmasks polar charge. So one way or the other, phase one is to get the chemical toxin more reactive. Phase two is then to add a conjugate to that reactive site. Glutathione, glucuronic acid, acetyl groups, methyl group, sulfur. There's a whole bunch of things that you can add to it, that the body adds to it. And then the third phase is escorting out the body. Now, the traps a lot of people get into, they can fall into, there's a few detox traps. I want to talk about them so your listeners don't get caught in them. One is they will get some kind of product that stimulates phase one but not phase two, or stimulates phase one but doesn't supply the raw elements of phase two. And that's something like a coffee enema, for example, will stimulate phase one. It stimulates the cytochrome P450 enzymes. And so it makes the chemicals in the body more reactive, but then if the body doesn't have the conjugates to attach to that, it actually makes your client worse. And this is why some people, when they start to detox, feel terrible. Or when someone breathes in like a cigarette smoke or some perfume or diesel fuel, they get sick as a dog. It's because their phase one is working, they're making it more reactive, but their phase two is crashed. So they can't bind to it to finish the job, or their phase three is gone. They can't get it out of the body. The way to think about phase three is, imagine you inherit a 40-year-old house, and you open up the door, and oh my God, I mean, there's 3 inches of dirt and dust over every surface. So you go in there with a vacuum cleaner, a dust and a broom and a pan. The first thing you do is not to sweep. If you start sweeping that house, you're in for it. The first thing you do is you walk around and open every single window and door in the house. Now you start sweeping. Phase three is opening the doors and windows. In this case, it's the liver and the gallbladder and the kidneys, which is our Glytamins product. And so some people, when they start to detox, if their phase three isn't working, their liver, gallbladder, kidneys, if one or more of those are compromised, it's like they're in this old house sweeping things around, it all just goes everywhere and doesn't go out. So one of the detox traps is understanding, if you're detoxing and you're feeling worse, either your phase two and or phase three is crashing. And that's more common than you think. So the metacardium is the soap we make for metals. The Xenoplex is the soap for chemicals, in this case, phase 1 and phase 2, because we put coffee and all the conjugates together. So we are giving someone a coffee enema or coffee suppository, but we're simultaneously making sure that they've got all the conjugates there so they don't crash on phase 2. And our glytamins is the phase 3. Another detox trap is to be aware of is some people will take a product and then check their urine and say, oh, wow, look at all the garbage I'm releasing, right? Maybe some chlorella that was grown in China near some affluent industrial waste, or some zeolite that wasn't properly acid washed. And they're not actually detoxing, they're actually toxing. And what they're measuring coming out of them is actually what they're putting in to them. And in both of these cases, these are self-fulfilling prophecies. If someone starts either crashing on phase 2 or 3, and or seeing lots of stuff come out of their urine from what they're putting in, they'll double down. They'll just say, oh, it's working. I just got to barrel through it. If I'm feeling worse, it's temporary. No, it's not. They're actually making themselves sicker and sicker every time. A good detox rarely makes you feel anything but better. Yeah, I would find, when we start giving someone a detox and we do phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 properly, it's only the most industrially exposed people that don't sail right through it. Usually people take it and they'll be okay, even if they're pretty toxic. Once in a while, we'll get someone who's just so toxic that, there's just no way, there's just so much dust in that house that no matter how many windows you open and you start booming, it's just you're gonna be coughing for a little bit. It's just dust going everywhere. That's pretty rare. So just something to be mindful of, that these are some traps. You think you're detoxing based on urine or based on symptoms, and you're actually making yourself worse. So that's the stage 1 that, in the 4-stage process that we were discussing. And, that's the metacardium, xenoplex, and vitamins. And that's the kind of thing that every human being in the 21st century can be doing. I mean, they've found DDT and chemical residues in the penguin breast milk or whatever. I mean, polar bear breast milk and penguin. So, I mean, it's everywhere. The whole planet is, I don't think penguins do breast milk. They lay eggs. Anyway, they found it in animals in the above the Arctic and Antarctic circles. So these chemicals are everywhere, right? In the blood of penguins. Is what I found. So you're not, if you're living in the 21st century, you're going to be exposed to this stuff. And it's really just, like changing the oil in your car once a year. If you live a normal life, or maybe twice a year if you work in some kind of industry that's some kind of toxic, like you're a welder, or you work in a fabric place with lots of chemical spray, you can do it more often.
And 30 days is that enough for most people, just a 30-day protocol? Or when would there be a situation where they need to go more?
Yeah, that's a great question. For most people, once a year, 30 days, which is one box of each, is enough to, keep them, get most of the stuff out they accumulated from the year before. If you've had some kind of heavy exposure, some kind of industrial exposure, you work as a dry cleaner, you've just got a lot of this stuff going on, you might need more initially. And then, of course, if you're still in that industry, you might need more. Also, if you take, one of these and you notice something happening, like, oh, my eyesight's improving, brain fog clearing, or energy coming back, or whatever it is you notice, and then the symptom returns when you stopped. Right? It's not. I don't want to make anybody dependent on these things, but that's an indication. Probably not done yet. You probably have more than you thought you did. Wow, how could I possibly have mercury in me? I don't have any mercury fillings. Oh, do you remember that time as a kid when you played and broke all those fluorescent light bulbs? Oh gosh, I do remember that. Right. I mean, there are exposures we've had that we don't even remember from childhood that are still with us. In terms of symptoms, the thing about symptoms is the human body is very well built. It won't give you symptoms until the very end of your health experience. You typically won't even see turbulence issues really showing up in blood flow until like 85% blockage. You can still get enough blood to be functional with quite a bit of blockage. So the body is so well built that we won't get symptoms until quite late in the game, and that's great. And it's terrible. And the terrible part is it's a lot harder to fix things when they're late in the game. The great part is it won't distract us from whatever it is we want to do with our life. But so it's great to have the body so strong that it can withstand so much abuse and keep going. And the way to repay the favor is to preventatively maintain it so that it never gets to the point where it gets overwhelmed with toxins.